I don't really make videos at all. I think some of my most popular videos have had about 3 or so views, and they've played the games from Overwatch. So I don't make videos, and the amateurish level of my video make, I'm sure that's going to be coming through. But I really just wanted to make this video tonight to really talk about the latest Overwatch patch, the Mercy rework, and the Diva changes. I'm hesitant to call Diva changes a rework because they're not really a rework. But I'll get back into that later. But I really just wanted to, at this moment in time, really cover those changes, give my 2 cents worth on them, and really go into the whether or not Overwatch is viable long term as it stands at this moment, and the way Blizzard and the development team and extension are treating Overwatch in general. Yeah, I really just wanted to cover these things in a video because I've been posting on Facebook forums and on the forums themselves and all over the place my thoughts and been discussing these things, and really it's just got me to a point where I just need to put them in a video. So let's go on. The latest patch, the Mercy rework, and the Diva changes. Ultimately, I'm going to probably be stirring the pot here very, very massively here by saying this, but the Mercy rework wasn't at all needed. Like, I mean, I can understand when you pop three ultimates on the point and you finally wipe the team, and then in comes the Mercy and 5-man res, and you have to do the whole thing over again. I can understand that's frustrating. I really can. I've been in that position myself, both as the Mercy and as the people who've popped those 3 ultimates. But here's the thing. You need to keep track of Mercy in the game. Like, it's not Mercy's fault that she's not being harassed. It's not Mercy's fault that you're not keeping track of her, that you don't know where she is, because that's what you need to do when you're facing a Mercy, is keep track of her. You need to know where she is, and you need to have a flanker or someone who can harass Mercy constantly on Mercy to prevent her from doing these 5-man reses. So I don't understand when people are coming out and saying, well, she needed the rework because she was getting 5-man reses and was ruining the game. That's ultimately your fault for letting that happen. I mean, it sucks to hear that, but that's the truth. The truth of the matter is, you're at fault for letting Mercy get the 5-man res, because she can't defend herself. She has to choose between healing her team and using her little pea shooter to defend herself, and her pea shooter doesn't do that much damage at all. So, to massively rework her like they have done, while I enjoy the rework, it's fairly okay rework, it was entirely unnecessary and completely unneeded. But here's what they've done with the Mercy changes is, in my honest opinion, while she's got res and she's still pretty potent with the reses, when a team fight stops being one of those skirmishing ones where you're looking to get the picks and it goes into a full out fight on the point, she no longer is effective with her reses. She can't res enough people with 20-second cooldown to do anything worth a damn. She's basically useless. She's basically a single target healer, a giant walking health pack. She's completely useless. So you might say pop her ultimate Valkyrie, it buffs her healing, it also buffs her damage. It's perfect counter to that argument. You're absolutely wrong, because you need to keep moving with it. You can't stay in one spot, because if you stay in one spot you're dead. But of course you can't be anywhere near the fight because she can't defend herself, she's too weak, so she flies. You get the soldier in, you get soldier, you get diva, even you get a roadhog, you get literally any hero in, and if they're worth a damn, the team will be focusing the Mercy, and the Mercy will go down really quickly. So there's absolutely nothing that her ult offers in reality that makes her viable in one of those large team fights that will occur in time. When a fight progresses beyond the skirmishing stage, those fights will happen and Mercy will no longer be viable. So, if she's no longer viable in these large skirmishes, I'm not saying she's not viable at all, because she still is, as I said before, she's absolutely good in the skirmishing phase to look at getting those picks. You res the pick, they can't push in. But when you take into fact that her reses and her ultimate doesn't have nearly as much impact as what it should compared to the other healers such as Lucio, for example, whose sound barrier can effectively negate an entire ultimate, or Zenyatta, who can effectively neutralize every other ultimate in the game, save for maybe Roadhog and a couple of others I'm sure I'm forgetting. Her ultimate and her kit doesn't impact the battle anywhere near as much as the other healers. And I do expect either Mercy to get tweaks to her current rework to fix that, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. What I feel is going to happen is she's going to slowly drop out of favor as other people start to realize this, as they start to realize, hang on a second, there's actually not much here better than the other healers. And already in my games, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing people drop the Mercy in favor of Lucio, in favor of Ana, in favor of Zen. I am not seeing Mercy that much because she is just simply not as effective at doing the job. But enough of the Mercy changes, and let's go into the most interesting one, the D.Va changes, which personally I actually like. I actually really enjoy the D.Va changes, strangely enough. I've played a bit of D.Va both before and after the patch, and I actually really enjoy the changes. I like the rockets, and those are my big ticket item. I really wanted those rockets to be just right, and they are just right, they are well done. But the lack of defense matrix hasn't been offset by a reduction in her massive critical hitbox. And if anyone worth a damn in the game knows about this hitbox, which almost everyone at this point in the game really should, they're going to shoot at the hitbox and D.Va's going to get melted. You know, you play as Bastion and you melt a D.Va in a couple of seconds, if that. You play as a Zenyatta, you get a Soldier, Discord D.Va, and Soldier has at her. She's melted. Soldier on his own can melt a D.Va at this point if you don't use defense matrix. But even then, defense matrix doesn't last anywhere near long enough in the game to offset the damage that she can really absorb without her reduction in critical hitbox. So while I like the DPS increase of D.Va, honestly I really don't enjoy her critical hitbox and how big it is. And I feel like if they just tweak that a bit smaller, D.Va's gonna be absolutely fine. She's gonna be absolutely perfect, and I'd be quite happy with it. And I still am with the changes, as I've said before. I am very happy with the changes to D.Va as they stand at the moment. And I think the rockets are good. I think the reduction in defense matrix is well done. But as I said before, the critical hitbox is far too large to offset the reduction in the defense matrix. Alright, so we've covered the Mercy changes, we've covered D.Va changes. Those were the big ticket items about the latest patch I just wanted to cover. But this leads me on to the next question. And it's a really difficult question to answer and ask, because it's about Overwatch's current state as it stands at this point in time as of the 22nd of the 9th, 2017 at 11:38 PM at night. And honestly, I don't think it's very healthy. You heard me say it. I don't think Overwatch is in a healthy state. And honestly, I think this comes down to a perfect whirlwind, a perfect storm of multiple issues coming together in Overwatch to just not produce a healthy player base. And I'm not talking about the toxicity issue on its own. I'm talking about the player base, everyone in the game, and whether or not it's going up or it's going down. I don't think it's very healthy. I think it's actually going down at a rather abnormal rate for usual first-person shooters of its kind. And I'll use examples in a second, but honestly, I myself have noticed a massive spike in waiting times after Season 5. Before Season 5, you'd usually always find a match within a minute. Now you're lucky if you find it within a minute. Now I'm finding matches after a minute 40 on average, a minute and 40 seconds on average. And you might be thinking, oh, 40 seconds extra, that's not much. You know, it's only an extra minute, what's that? And that's true. It's nothing to be concerned about at this point, but it's not what it is now so much as what it indicates. And what that kind of spike of 40 seconds indicates is that it's taking 40 seconds longer for the matchmaker to find a game. And that's actually pretty worrying when you're in gold rank, because in the gold rank, that's where the majority of the player base is. Now, I've been reading somewhere that this could be attributed to a difference in the way that Blizzard is handling the competitive season now. And that may be absolutely true. I'm not going to sit here and say it's because of X when it's really because of Z. It is probably a mixture of both the changes to competitive as of Season 6 compared to the other seasons, as well as the impact of Season 5. And now, if you've played Season 5, I'm sure you understand what I'm about to get into. If you haven't, if you've just joined us, or if you're like me actually, who skipped Season 5 for the most part, I'm talking about the dive meta. Now, dive meta, from what I've been able to tell myself, it is one of the most universally hated dive comps, well, most hated composition in Overwatch. And for me, I hate it myself, and that's entirely because games would end within a few minutes. You get into Ilios and the game will be over in about a minute or two. Then you play the next map, another minute or two. Play the next map, another minute or two. It's not fun to win that quickly. It's not fun to lose that quickly, especially losing. And, you know, it's absolutely not fun. So, I myself did my placement matches, and I just skipped Season 5. I didn't play Overwatch that entire season, and I'm not the only one. Some of my friends also skipped Season 5. Some of them only played Quick Play. Some of them completely dropped Overwatch. One of them actually hasn't picked up Overwatch since. And another friend of mine, he's actually dropped Overwatch for a break in Season 3, and he's come back after Season 5 and found about the dive meta, and he just wasn't too happy about it. But the impact of Season 5, when you have a dive meta, when you have that kind of dive meta, which is almost universally hated by the community, you'd expect the developers or someone to announce, hey look, we're going to look into it. That didn't happen until about midway in the season. So there was a lot of time there that was basically wasted, where the developers and Blizzard could have done something that didn't. And I feel like a lot of people looked at this lack of action and just said, look, I've had enough of this game, and they quit. And that must have been a pretty substantial amount. I'm not saying it's the majority, I'm not saying it's a minority. All I'm saying, it is a sizable amount of people who have left the game since Season 5 to increase the wait time by about 40 seconds on average. I am talking about averages here, in case you weren't aware. I'm not talking about it's always 1 minute on the dot, it's always a minute 40 on the dot. It's on average a minute 40 for me right now at about 2200 SR. And anyway, so that's the impact of Season 5. Now, moving on, we've all heard people talking about this. We've all heard Jeff Kaplan and his developer update video about it, and we all see posts about it, we all see comments about it, we all see it in the game. I am talking about toxicity and the impact toxicity is having on the game itself. And I don't know how many of you've played very toxic games before. I've played toxic games in Overwatch, incredibly toxic games in Overwatch. It's not fun. It's absolutely not fun to sit in a game and be berated by your own team, by the enemy team. It's just not fun whatsoever. But honestly, I don't feel as though Overwatch has had that much of an impact in terms of toxicity. The toxicity on Overwatch's player base, I don't feel like it's that major, but it's one of those things that's kind of like cancer. It's there, but it's never doing enough damage to actually harm you until it's absolutely too late. And that's like how it is with Overwatch. You know, seasons 1, 2, 3, it was there. It was there in season 1, it was there in season 2, it was there in season 3. But it wasn't doing too much. It wasn't impacting the player numbers. But season 4, season 5, season 6, there was a pretty big uptick in it. And that can be attributed to different things. I'll get into that later on in the video, but toxicity has had an impact as of right now in Overwatch. I know people who've been posting on Overwatch forums, who've been posting on, I believe, a couple of posts on Reddit and a couple of posts on Facebook saying they can't play the game anymore because they're afraid to go into the game and get berated and get attacked by the community, by the people they're playing with. And these are just the people who are posting about it, who are making that stuff public. The vast majority of people in the game who leave are not going to make it public. They're not going to make a big spectacle about it. So if there's 5 people on the forums posting about it, and there's 2 people on Reddit, and there's 10 people on Facebook, those are just people who are saying we're doing it. How many people do we don't know that are leaving the game because of toxicity? And that's something only Blizzard can answer, because only Blizzard has that player number. But I wouldn't put it past it to say toxicity has had an impact on the player base, because it does, and it will constantly have an impact, and it's up to the developers of Overwatch to do something about that, which they are now, thankfully. But I'm going to use this as a good old segue here. They're doing things to tackle the toxicity far, far too late to actually be worth a damn. Overwatch has a very, very slow update schedule. And that could be because developers are busy working on the content, but that's unlikely. You know, since launch, we've had basically nothing. And I'm going to say it, there's been basically fucking zero content. Pardon the swear, but we've had pretty much zero content in terms of actual gameplay. We've had about 3-4 new maps for 6v6. We had 4 or so maps for Team Deathmatch and other small maps. We've just had Junker Town map come out. I think I've concluded that with the 6v6 maps. And we've had about 4 or so heroes, which I think that's a good number for post-launch. 4 or 5 heroes, that's a pretty reasonable number. But the maps, that's absolutely abysmal. That's actually quite disgusting to see that few maps. You know, I'm actually going to check this on another game. Here we go, boys. I'm actually not going to compare it to Team Fortress 2, it's a bit unfair. I'm going to compare it to another game, a very good favourite of mine, Rising Storm 2. It's a first-person shooter set in Vietnam. It's a realistic kind of game. Check it out if you like it too, if you're into that kind of stuff. But it was launched actually this year, I believe, in 2017. Just pull it up right here. And it's actually got more maps as of right now if you include the custom maps. It was launched with about 8 maps total. And including custom maps, pulling it up, we are talking, browse items. I'm actually going on the Steam community for Rising Storm Vietnam here. If we include the community content for this game, we are looking at about almost 39 new maps. The community for this game has produced 39 maps since 2017 launch. I'm actually going to check that right now. Let's see, Rising Storm 2. That's the one we are after. Bring it up in the store. Rising Storm 2 Vietnam. Here we go. And it was released. Where's it? 31st of May 2017. It was officially launched 31st of May 2017, and it's got the base 8 maps plus the 39 or so custom maps. And yet the Overwatch developers from 2016, about May I believe it was, from May 2016 to now have come up with a total of an additional 8. I mean, I'm not a developer. I want to make this clear. I do not make maps. I am not a modder. I have no experience in games area. But when a community for a different game can produce maps, which it is arguable are more difficult to produce for this game than Overwatch, based purely on the mechanics in the game, based purely on differences in the games, it is very arguable that it is harder to develop fair and balanced maps for Rising Storm 2 than Overwatch. So we have a community that produces 38 maps, yet developers that produce about 8, and you know, 4 of those are really cheap maps. They're more suited for 1v1s, more suited for 3v3s. So I'm going to bundle them in to about half. So technically, we've got, what, 4 6v6 plus an extra 2 total 6v6 maps. If you can count the 4 3v3s. That is absolutely disgusting post-launch. That is disgusting post-launch for a AAA game made by Blizzard, a multi-million-dollar company. They have resources to do this stuff. They have had the time to do this stuff. We're pushing past a year now. It's a year and a couple months since Overwatch was released, and we still haven't had that many maps released. And yet, I'm going to go back to Rising Storm 2 here, because this is actually pretty good. Rising Storm 2 is actually producing another 2 factions with additional weapons and an additional vehicle. That's basically an entire whole game's worth. They're making another game's worth of content for their game, and it's already to the point where it's in QA testing. And this is still before we have substantial amounts of maps. So where's this development time going into? Do they have the resources? And this is a very good segue into another point I have, and that is Blizzard is probably hindering Overwatch. The developers love the game. They are very talented people, but one of two things is happening. Either Blizzard themselves is telling the Overwatch team, you can't produce this much content this quickly, so stop producing it that quickly, or, and this is very, very likely what is going on, they are literally a team of about 5 people. And I say this knowing full well that is probably true. And I'll tell you why. This is probably true because Jeff Kaplan himself, from his own mouth, says his development team is having to stop work on other content to focus on toxicity. In a normal game, you do not stop content development to focus on toxicity. You set up a separate department of about 2 or 3 developers to fix that issue. That's what you do, and that's what you should be doing. That's what you should be doing in a fully funded, fully resourced game development scenario. When you have 5 people, you can't do that. You have 5 people working on Overwatch. And I want to let that sink in. You have 5 or so people working on Overwatch. And I'm coming to the number of 5 because if you have 10, if you have 17, that's more than enough to separate some of them to work solely on toxicity. With 5, 6, you don't have that luxury of doing that. Jeff Kaplan and the Overwatch development team likely do not have the resources they need at their disposal to constantly and consistently update the game and create content for it. And that is absolutely disgusting behavior from Blizzard. Blizzard, I don't know why they're doing this. We can guess at the why based on the knowledge we have. And the knowledge we have is that Overwatch isn't getting enough content. They've had time and they should have resources, yet they're not producing the content. What's happening? We can guess and we can assume Blizzard wants to create a money pig. They're treating Overwatch as if it's a bank. They want minimal investment but maximum return. And that's probably what's happening. You know, so far, recently most big patches has broken more than it's patched. How can that happen when you have QA? You don't have QA because you don't have the money to do it properly. Blizzard is artificially hindering Overwatch's progress, and that is sad. Because Overwatch has the possibility of becoming the best esports game, in my opinion. And it is really sad that Overwatch is dying artificially because Blizzard doesn't want to treat it right. They want to see Overwatch grow into this massive thing so they can milk it, but they don't want to put in the money or the time to make it that thing they can milk out of. And that's really, really super sad to me. You know, I might be wrong, but when a game released earlier this very year, 2017, has more content from its community who are not professionals, mind you, these are just modders. When a game from this year has more community content than a group of professional developers have put out for a big major AAA title that they're still charging $80 here in Australia. You can go to your local EB, your local games shop, walk in to buy a physical copy, and it's $80, $86. Online it'll probably be about $70, $60. So it's still at full price for certain copies. Most copies actually. It's still charging full price, mind you. So you're buying into this game and it has less content than a game released this year. If you factor in just the modding community scene. If you factor in the developer content, that's even worse. And if you factor in what they're going to be adding, which is quite literally an entire new game's worth of content, including rain, including shaders, dynamic shaders, 3D VoIP. These are things that are very complex to do, and they're putting it in for the next major patch. Yet this major patch that we've got 2 reworks. Well, technically 1 rework and 1 minor change. This is a very slow development process for Overwatch, and it is nowhere near enough to sustain Overwatch in the long term. And you can already start to feel it. It's starting to lose its steam. And that's sad. Because as I see it right now, unless Blizzard changes how they view Overwatch and gives the development team the resources they need and gives them what they need to do their job, we're going to be looking at Overwatch dying potentially this year. Very potentially, there's a very real potential for it to die this year or next year. And already we can already see the questions. You go on the forums, you go into the Facebook groups, and In some cases, you go into Reddit, I've seen 1 or 2 posts there. People are questioning if the game is even still alive. They're questioning what's going on in the game, and it's really impacting the game. And it is dying. It's not dying quickly, mind you. I want to make this very clear. It is not dying very quickly, but it is dying faster than what it usually should be. This death, using air quotes here, this death of Overwatch, it can be attributed to the lack of content, the lack of actual tangible content, because all we've gotten so far is really just cosmetics, and cosmetics don't take that much time. I'm going to be honest with you here. Cosmetics don't take that much time. Voice acting doesn't take that much time. In comparison, mind you, in comparison to, you know, making a map, in comparison to making a new hero, it doesn't take that much time to do. It absolutely doesn't take that much time to do it. You know, and I feel like that's really hitting Overwatch hard, but what's also hitting it hard is because they're so small, they don't have the time or the resources to fix bugs in the game. Just recently they fixed I think it was a couple months ago in August, or the month before that, they fixed a bug with Reinhardt's charge and hammer that had actually been in there since launch, and had been reported since launch. That's unacceptable, and people are feeling that. You know, people are starting to feel it very hard. They're starting to realize that bugs probably won't be patched for several months if they're minor, and if they're major, likely to be patched within a couple of weeks if you're lucky. If it's not game breaking, that is. Because if it's game breaking, it's a couple of weeks patch, and they're just going to disable the skins like they have, and I fully support the way Blizzard's handled that recently. But if it's not game breaking, it's going to take to the rest of the season, competitive season basically, or the rest of the down season to get anything done. You know, and it's one of those things that people are really, really starting to feel at this point. You know, and it's starting to cause harm to Overwatch. The lack of content, the lack of attention to the reported minor bugs, reported minor glitches, and the actual issues within the game, such as toxicity, because they ignored that for almost a year and a couple months now. You know, they're only now developing systems which in reality should have been in the game since launch. Like, the developers, they know the game, they know online gaming, they're no strangers to it. So there's no real actual excuse for them to wait the better part of a year and a half, in all honesty, to actually patch out toxicity, to introduce changes into the reporting system so that toxicity is handled correctly. And that's absolutely unacceptable, and some people are actually leaving because of that, because of toxicity, because of their ignorance of toxicity, because they haven't handled it in that year and a half. They're starting to leave because it's gone that bad. And granted, Overwatch development team, they're now dealing with it, or at least trying to, but it's still a year and a half too late. The damage has been done to Overwatch. It now has a reputation of being a very toxic game, especially on console. And because it has this toxicity problem on console, there's a reputation. People don't want to come to Overwatch, and people are leaving because of toxicity. You know, I saw on Facebook sponsored posts. So Blizzard's actually paid Facebook money to get this thing promoted, promoting the new free weekend that's coming up. And the free weekend, that's gonna be good, I hope. But this post had 1 like and 1 comment from the 20th of this month, 2 days ago, almost 3 now, and I only had 1 like, one comment. Usually when a company like Blizzard will sponsor these posts, you'd expect more than just 1 like and 1 comment from the same guy. So maybe that's indicative. I don't know. Alright, to sum things up, let's conclude this whole video. We've gone on for almost just over half an hour. Let's wrap things up. You know, Mercy rework, it's unneeded. The changes have made her probably less favoured in the meta now. She's probably going to be phased out in favour of other healers. The D.Va, I actually like the D.Va changes. Personally, I'm gonna fully admit I love the D.Va changes. I absolutely love them, but she just melts too easy with her crit hitbox. You know, either tweak the defense matrix, give it back her old changes, you know, where she didn't have the rocket launchers and she had her defense matrix. Either bring that back or reduce the critical hitbox. Those are the only things I'd probably recommend, and personally I prefer the critical hitbox. I love my rockets personally. The game is not in the healthiest state. You know, Season 5, the toxicity and the lack of developer content is hurting the game, and hopefully that changes. Hopefully we have a renaissance in Overwatch. But yeah, I don't know if anyone's actually listening to this video. I expect no one has, but if you have, you know, leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me how much I need to die and that shit. I don't care. Probably not going to pay attention to it anyway. As I said, this is a very amateurish video. If there's any mistakes, then I apologize. This is the first actual commentary video I've ever done like this style, in this manner. So if you want, leave a comment about how it sounds. So probably no one's actually watching this video. Gotta love that. But yeah, catch you guys around and catch you in the sky.
Get some audio in front of A on the sides and stuff.
Return to the combat area.